Hello, welcome to Sunday School class for what is today? July 14? Yes, and we are moving along in the book of Numbers in the wilderness. Remember, this all takes place about 1500 years or less BC, and we're continuing the story today about this man right here. We learned about him last week. His name is, in English, we say Phineas or Pinchas in Hebrew. He was the son of Eleazar, who was the son of Aaron the high priest. And after Aaron died, then Eleazar became the high priest. And so I guess you could say that Phineas was a PK. But it says that Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, hath turned my wrath away from the children of Israel. How did he do that? While he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consumed not the children of Israel in my jealousy. What did he do? We learned last week, we heard about him, his picture of him holding this spear. He took it upon himself to execute judgment over a very grievous sin that had entered the camp. The chosen people, the children of Israel, there were the Midianites, and we heard about the um, Baal Peor, the sin of Baal Peor. Baal meaning, well, it's the name of a false god actually, but it means the Lord of the openings. Peor means opening. And so it was just a very filthy, disgusting mixture of idolatry, worshiping idols, and seduction by the Midianite women. And so last week we left it with the story of a man, an Israelite man, brought into the very camp a Midianitish woman, and he was committing fornication with her. And there was a plague going on that was killing thousands of people, and the sin was just rampant. Well, Phineas took it upon himself to take a spear, and lack of a better word, he shish kebabbed the man and woman, both of them, in the act. And it's the Bible records that the plague was stayed because of that. Now here is um, Pinchas or Phineas. Remember last week we said in Hebrew his name is Pinchas, and here is a noon, chet, and a that is a oh, what's the Hebrew letter? It's not a sheen, it's a seen, and it spells the word nakash, which is a snake. And the first letter, you read right to left, first letter is a pei, and it's a picture of a mouth in Paleo Hebrew, the early Hebrew, and the word pei means mouth, and so Pinchas' name means mouth of the snake. But we see when you write his name, there's a yod here. A yod is a picture of a hand. Now, in every Torah scroll, and only see this in a Torah scroll, not in your English Bibles or printed Bibles, the yod or yud, sometimes pronounced, is made small in the name of Pinchas. It's written more like this. It's smaller and brought down. Why is that? It's been done that way for thousands of years. You only see it in the Paleo Hebrew. And we'll get back to why in a minute because there's another little anomaly that we see in the next verse. Wherefore say, behold, I give unto him my covenant of peace. God saying, I'm giving to Pinchas my covenant of peace, and he shall have it, and his seed after him, even the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Well, this is a reference, this is prophetic about Jesus, because he was zealous for his God and made an atonement for the children of Israel. See, who made an atonement for us. And this is what is said of Pinchas, my covenant of peace I'm going to make with him. Now, in Hebrew, it's pronounced Bariti Shalom. Just that's my covenant. If it were just covenant of peace, it would say Brit Shalom. But my covenant is Bariti. Now, when you read it from right to left, and you see this word shalom, shalom. Beriti. It's Beriti. The E, which is that little yod, a small yod at the end, it makes it possessive. Beriti. You know, when Mary saw Jesus in the garden at the resurrection, she said Rabboni, and it's with the E on the Rabboni at the end. Rabbi means teacher. When she said Rabboni or Rabbani, that means my teacher. She said, "You're my teacher." So there's a possessive in Beriti, my covenant of peace God gives to us. Now, here is the other anomaly in this. This is the word shalom. Shin Lamed Vav and a Mem at the end. Shalom. And the Hebrew letters are they're phonetic as well. You know that sh is for the sheen. The Lamed has a L sound. The Vav is going to be a V or sound, but it often acts as a vowel. There are no vowels specifically in Hebrew, but when you have the Vav here, it's a connector. So it connects to the last letter which is a mem, has the M sound. Shalom, and it's going to be used as an O. Usually it's an O or an U. So, but it's not shalom, it's shalom. But what the anomaly is in every Torah scroll, it looks like this. What's different? It's broken. The Vav has a break in it. Why is that? In every Torah scroll, my picture's covering this up. I got to get my picture off here. In every Torah scroll, see if I can tell you what this says underneath there. In every Torah scroll, the Vav in this word is broken and is only in this verse, is what that says. This is the only time in the whole Bible where the Vav is written broken. It's an anomaly, only seen in Hebrew, and it would be considered to be a tittle. We've heard of not a jot or tittle will pass away from the law. Well, we say, well, that means every I dot and every T cross, every small thing that was written in the scriptures. Well, this is a very small aspect of the Hebrew ancient scriptures. We can call it a tittle because it's an anomaly. And the question is, why has this been written this way for thousands of years? And I'm going to go ahead and take my picture down. Here are the possibilities to consider as to why this has a broken Vav. One astute observation someone made is that the Vav is also the number 6, the number for man. It's the 6th letter of the alphabet. Um, Hebrew is a number language. Every letter is a number. It's phonetically tells you how to pronounce it, but it's also a picture of something. And the Vav is a picture of a nail, and it's broken. And so you could say, well, the number 6 here symbolizes that man is broken, that we are fallen. But you could also say, well, man's stubborn will must be broken if the Vav, the number for man, is broken here. But the Vav is also a nail or a peg. It attaches things together. It's a picture of a nail or a peg. Our peace only comes from a man who was broken in our place. Phineas's deed brought about a covenant of peace. Phineas was jealous and zealous for God as God is jealous and zealous for us. Phineas is a type of Messiah that was given a covenant of peace. Why is he a type of Messiah? Um, because what he did brought about um, the stopping of the plague, the ending of the death of thousands. Two of the anomalies in this passage are with, in these close proximity to each other, they're with the Yod and the Vav. You could say the two anomalies in this passage are with the hand and the nail. Wow, that's interesting. Jeremiah 33:20 says, "Thus says Yahweh, if you can break my covenant for the day and my covenant for the night, so that day and night will not be at their appointed time," that would be an impossibility, "only then would my covenant also be broken with David, my servant, that he shall not have a son to reign on his throne, and with the Levitical priests, my ministers." God's promises, he's just a way of saying here in Jeremiah that his covenants, his promises are true and forever. And so the hand and the nail in this passage here. Now, we're going to make a connection here because of what Phineas did. He shish kebab these two people because of their immorality. They were committing adultery, but they were also committing idolatry. The words sounded like idolatry, adultery, but in Yah's eyes, they are the same thing. Why are they the same thing? Hosea says, "My people inquire of a piece of wood, and their walking staff gives them oracles." Well, that's idolatry, making an idol out of a piece of wood or their staff. But he says, "For a spirit of whoredom has led them astray, and they have left their God to play the whore." So adultery, promiscuity, fornication, sexual sin is connected very much, that spirit, to idolatry. Now, it's common in Scripture to equate adultery with idolatry. This is because both are forms of unfaithfulness. Be unfaithful to God, and be unfaithful to your wife. Both make relationships impure. Both begin with seemingly small and innocent acts that aren't really all that bad. Um, isn't that the way it goes? People say, "Well, okay, do you worship an idol?" Well, take the only thought that came to my mind was say, like someone said, "Oh, I check my horoscope uh, every morning," or used to remember when we got newspapers, people would check their horoscopes. Why? Oh, it's no big deal. It's really not that bad. But yet they would look to something in astrology to tell them what their future is or what the day was going to be like. That's or how does adultery start with something that's really not all that bad? Well, you've got, a man and a woman working in the same office, and they start making eye contact or doing something nice. Oh, I'm just doing something nice for this person, and then the next thing you know, there's an attraction, and the next thing you know, it's that one thing leads to another. That's the way it goes. But both are sins that feed on selfish human desires. Both destroy trust. Isn't that what happens when we disobey God? We're not trusting Him. Um, but when a husband and wife are unfaithful to each other, trust is broken. It can be built back, but it can take a lot of time and effort and energy. Both are destructive behaviors that lead to great personal loss. Both delude the guilty person into thinking they're the victim, when in reality they were willing participants. Hosea appears to be mixing metaphors in this, of idolatry and adultery. But it is worth noting that cult prostitution was integral with idol worship. And that's what we saw with the sin of Baal Peor. The men were seduced to come into the tents of these women. They had their robes covering them. They'd unrobe themselves, and there'd be an idol, and they'd say, "You can have sex with me if you bow down and worship this idol." They just mixed idol worship and adultery together. So who was this guy that dared have Cosby, the Midianitish woman? Who was he that he's an Israelite man, and he brought in the Midianite woman. Now, the name of the Israelite that was slain, even that was slain with the Midianite woman, his name was Zimri, the son of Salu, the prince of a chief house among the Simeonites. Now, remember the name of this tribe. You'll see that at the end of this lesson, something about the tribe of Simeon that I think had a direct correlation to Zimri and his people, his tribe. And the name of the Midianitish woman that was slain was Cosbi. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, "Vex the Midianites and smite them, for they vex you with their wiles, wherewith they have beguiled you in the matter of Peor." Remember that the sin of Balaam, the doctrine of Balaam, was that if you want to seduce these Israelite men, get them with seduction, with sexual allurements, and that's what happened with the sin of Baal Peor. And in the matter of Cosbi, the daughter of Prince of Midian, their sister, which was slain in the day of the plague for Peor's sake. Peor caused it. Now, I'm not sure where I got this information, somewhere else. It could be in scriptures or just historical record somewhere. That Cosbi was the daughter of Zur. He was head over a people in a chief house in Midian. So she was in the family of leadership of the Midianites. And Zimri was the son of a prince of a chief house among the Simeonites. So here you've got leaders that have gone very much astray. Psalm 106 says, they, speaking of the children of Israel, this is in Psalms, they joined themselves also unto Baal Peor and ate the sacrifices of the dead. Very pagan, ungodly, uh, devil worshiping, idol worshiping thing to do. Thus they provoked him to anger with their inventions, and the plague broke in upon them. Then stood up Phinehas and executed judgment. So the plague was stayed, and that was counted unto him for righteousness unto all generations forevermore. So we just this is in Psalms, and we just read that that's what it said in Numbers, Bamidbar, that God made a covenant of peace with him because of what he did. So there's a spiritual principle here with this action showing how to stop the plague of death, which is the consequences of sin. This story tells us that the plague was not going to stop until somebody paid with their life for Israel's sins. You can see the analogy developing. In this case, we discover that it was the leaders of the rebellion that had to die to save the sins of their brothers. Jesus or Yahusha, he did the same thing for us. Did he not take upon himself the sin of all the people, shouldering all of it himself? The wages of sin is death. Jesus said, I will be that guilty party, and I will take the punishment for everyone's sin. Was he not also thrust with a spear, causing the life-giving water and blood to flow for all mankind? A spear, the instrument by which sin was judged and his death confirmed. So there's a lot of analogies and similarities prophetically for the coming of Messiah based off of this story. Was not the plague of the law of sin and death destroyed the second he breathed his last? What's the law of sin and death? The law, and this is law, you sin, you die. And so we're all going to be subject to that law. We sin, we die. Except the law is no longer a law that has to happen. It can be broken because of what Jesus did. We don't have to die. We can have eternal life. Jesus said, it is finished. And he gave us a covenant of shalom, peace. And we've talked a lot about the Hebrew letters today. Here is the word shalom, reading right to left in Hebrew, and it's the first letter. This is Paleo, which is the original Hebrew language. It doesn't look like that today in modern, but this some of the letters do. This sheen, it's a picture of teeth in the Paleo. Sometimes it has points on it, and it means to destroy. The lamed is a picture of a shepherd's staff or shepherd crook to get the sheep by their necks and guide them and protect them. And of course, it symbolizes authority. It's a staff. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. He's the one in authority. The vav, as we said, it's a connector. It's a tent peg, and it attaches things. Mem in Paleo is a picture of water, which is chaotic. It's a moving water, like waves. It's chaos. So the definition of the word peace coming from shalom, the very letters give us the definition. Destroy the authority attached or establishes chaos. Destroy the authority that attached to chaos. Well, who's that authority? Satan is that authority. He must be destroyed. Satan's rule and reign over you must be destroyed because he's the one that's behind all the chaos. You must destroy the authority attached to chaos. I love that. Behold, I'm giving to him my covenant of peace. This is what he's also offering to you and me, a covenant of peace. And this says Brit Shalom, covenant of peace. If it's my covenant of peace, it's Briti Shalom, my covenant of peace. So Israel's going to get ready to go to war against the Midianites. So what does God do? And it came to pass after the plague, and it just so happens there's a space there in every Torah scroll. Why is there a space here in the Torah scroll? It may be because someone postulated, because this is the end of the generation of people that before they go into the promised land. So all those that the plague was stopped, and they're going to go fight the Midianites, or else it's just a space to mean to pause and reflect right here. But 24,000 were killed in that plague. But this is what God says to do. You're going to go fight the Midianites, smite them all, vex them, as it says. But he says to Moses, take the sum of the congregation. The second time he's asked him to take the sum. The first time was when they came out of Egypt, and they had 603,000. Well, now he's telling them to take another census of those that are 20 years old, those that are able to go to war. It's like age 50 or something like that. And Moses and Eleazar, the priest, spoke with them in the plains of Moab and the Jordan near Jericho. Take the sum of the people from 20 years old and upward. Um, and they did this. And so we go through this list. I'm going to rush through this because it's pretty much, it starts naming a bunch of people in each clan that we don't know. But it starts with Reuben, the firstborn. There were 43,730. Okay. Well, then a little sidebar here about Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, who came out of this tribe. That it just reminds us they were the ones that they strove against Yahweh in that rebellion, Korah's rebellion, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up together with Korah. That are when that company died. What time the fire devoured 250 men at that time when the earth opened up, and they became a sign. But it says, notwithstanding, the children of Korah died not. So it brings all this out, just that the descendants of Korah went on. Some of them became writers of the Psalms and lived very godly lives. But there was a great sin amongst the people of Korah. Then it goes on to the sons of Simeon. Remember, I said, remember this name, 22,200. Okay, well, that sounds like a lot in that tribe. Hold on. Gad, 40,500. Judah goes through all these numbers. Issachar, Zebulun, three score thousand. What three scores? A score is 20. 6,005, 60,500. Is that what it is? Sons of Joseph. Now, Joseph didn't have a tribe. There's not the tribe of Joseph, but his two children, Manasseh and Ephraim. Remember, they were blessed and treated as if they were born in the land. Their mother was an Egyptian, but they became two tribes. And the descendants of these two tribes are the Europeans and a lot in America. And so we've talked about that before. And then there's Benjamin, the youngest. There was Dan, Asher, Naphtali. And the bottom line is these were the numbered of the children of Israel, 600,000 and 1,750. Well, I just told you a second ago, well, a minute ago, when they came out of Egypt, he counted and there was 603,550. Now, less than 40 years later, they've gone down several thousand. Why is that? Total change is 3%. These that are highlighted, they actually increased in their tribe. They were being fruitful and multiplying. But this one right here, Simeon, that's why I said, remember that tribe. That's the tribe from which Zimri, who committed this great sin of bringing the Midianitish woman into the camp. Look how far they went down, more than half. I mean, from almost 60,000 to 22,000. Now, what does that tell us? We're supposed to be growing, aren't we? Isaiah 42:6 says, I am Yahweh. I have called you in righteousness. I will take you by the hand to keep you. I will give you, no, that's not supposed to be there, a covenant for the people, a light for the nations. This is the marching orders. These are the people who were later charged, because this is in Isaiah, but they were specifically charged with being a light to the nations, who were given Yahweh's Torah of instruction. They saw the glory of the Lord, and yet their numbers declined in the wilderness. While they were in the wilderness, they received the Torah. While they were in the wilderness, there were several times the glory of the Lord appeared to them. And yet, here we see because of them allowing idolatry and adultery to come into their lives, into the camp. They lost. They went down in numbers. But what about us who have the Holy Spirit and more? We should be growing more and more and more. Did you know, and I've seen this figure for the past 30 years, 80% of our churches are plateaued or declining, and that has not been turned around. Matter of fact, it's just gotten worse. There was a time, 30 years ago, we were between 15, 16 million Southern Baptists, and now we're like below 15 million. We, the church, and that's not just Baptist denominations, all the denominations, people aren't going to church. People are leaving the church. Um, the followers, the people who claim Christianity are declining, but yet we know this is also a fulfilling of prophecy as we come to the end of days. Will there be faith found on the earth when he comes again? Jesus himself said, broad is the way that leads to destruction and death, and many there be that go that way. But narrow and is the way that leads to life, and few be those that find it. He is the door. He's the only door. And so we know that the numbers are declining. Well, don't you want to be sure that you are part of that number? And don't you want to be ready? I want to be ready for his second coming. That was the name of my song I wrote on the beach vacation a couple weeks ago. It's called Ready. Look it up on YouTube or on my YouTube channel. I'll email it out to you with this lesson. So I'm going to leave you with this song, Carry the Light by Twyla Paris. This was an oldie goldie back in the 80s. We did this as a praise song, as a choir anthem during missions emphasis. Carry the light. That's what we're going and preach the gospel unto all the world. You know, how will the people know unless we tell them? So I kind of shortened this down to just a couple minutes. But we are to be about the business of shining our light and not letting our numbers dwindle. I'm so thankful for what's going on at River District Church. Now, that church has a long way to catch up to where it was back in the 60s and 70s. It ran 700, and they'd gotten down to about 65 people at First Baptist West Columbia, where my dad was pastor. And many, many churches were facing such dilemma, and they're declining. We came into First Baptist West Columbia, changed the name, restarted the church, it's River District Church, and it's turned the corner. It's coming back, and they're like closer to having 100 every week. And so we're so thankful for the direction that they're going, and pray that the light will be carried through West Columbia and in that surrounding area. But till next week, have a great week. Pray for those that have lost loved ones. We had 3 deaths in this past week. I'm doing the funeral today for Thera McElmurray. Patty England passed away Saturday morning, and Howard Smith passed away last night. And so let's lift up these families that are hurting. Our numbers may decline by death, but we should be birthing new people into the kingdom all the time so that our numbers should grow. So God bless you. Shalom, shalom. See you next week.